Hello, and welcome. My name is Jim Lee, and I'm so glad that you are, in fact, joining me today. Some of you are familiar with the Bible and you remember this story. It's called The Prodigal Son, and this is in Luke, and it's the 15th chapter. How the story goes, this young man, he was just a mere boy, he asked his father for his inheritance early. He wasn't supposed to get it, but he got his inheritance early. And sure enough, he was immature and he went off and he just blew all of his money. And all the friends that were around him and whatnot left him once the money left. And the young man, who happened to be Jewish in this story, was now living in a pig's pen. That is the worst thing for a young Jewish boy. And he was not only feeding the pigs, but the only thing he could do was but eating what the pigs were eating. So this basic story is about he was hitting bottom, the bottom of the bottom. Then something happened. And in the scripture, in about the 17th verse, it says, he came to himself. It's almost like he woke up. And when he did, he said, what am I doing? I can go back to my father. It's like his father's love had reached him in the pig's pen and like woke him up. I'm not a pig. I know who I am. And he stood up and said, I'm a priest and I can go home. And then in that moment, his life changed. And so the parable to me is about our condition today. We need to come to ourselves. We need to wake up. We need to come into another way of being with the world that we can really see who and what we are. Yes, my beloved, it is time that we come to our real self so we can live a life of freedom and wonder and spontaneity and above all, love. Oh yes, this is in fact possible. We just need to wake up to our true identity, to unhook ourselves from any false pretense about who we are, so that we can see what we really are. So today is about you and I waking up and realizing, who are we really? What's our authentic self? And who is this self that we can come to and wake up to? Well, I guess it's inscribed in the temple of Apollo at Delphi. It has these words, know thyself. And the question, do you know who you are so that you can come to yourself? Yes, I know. There is this question about who are we really? And some of you have heard the story of these three guys. They're inmates in a mental institution. And they were having this heated discussion. And the first guy, number one, says, I know who I am. I am Napoleon Bonaparte. And the second guy asks, wait a minute. You're Napoleon Bonaparte? Who told you that you were Napoleon Bonaparte? And he said, God told me. And the third guy said, no, I didn't. And this points to people's delusions that, do we really know who we are? I know it's kind of a weird story, but in essence, do we really know who we are? Or are we living out of a false identity about who we think we are? Who are we so we can come to this selves like in the story and wake up so that we can have another life? Well, sometimes we think, well, we're mothers and fathers, we're sons and daughters, and our identity is part of that. Sometimes we could take a look, who are we? And our identity could be, our racial makeup of ethnicity, but actually we're more than that. And sort of who are we? Some people can look at it as sexual orientation, like the LGBTQIA plus. I understand is the new languaging, and there are 11 different types of sexuality. Are we that? Yeah, we could be that, but we are more than that. And then, of course, the big one that most people will say, who are we, when somebody asks you that? Well, we're our job, we're our profession, we're our degrees. And then we got all kinds of identity. Are you liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican? Are you an optimist, pessimist? What's your astrological sign? All of those things. Yeah, we got those. But I want to go to a deeper place. Let's make a shift in our identity from any of those labels. In fact, any of those thoughts about ourselves. That's not where I want to point today. I want to make a shift in our identity to our real selves. So let's take a look here, like the prodigal son, and wake up to what I would call our authentic self. It is here that we have access, like the prodigal son, to life, also to have it more abundantly. Now, I want to be pointing that to you today, but also it reminds me of, there was this movie called The Matrix that I like, and one of the lead characters was Morpheus, and he was talking to Neo, and he was trying to wake him up, and Morpheus said, "I'm trying to free your mind, Neo, but I can only show you the door. You are the one that has to walk through it." So now I want to point you in the direction of who you are so that we can walk through it, both you and I together. Know thyself is the key, and that was inscribed in Delphi at one of the entrances. And this is part of the Gnostic sayings, which was part of the first century Christians. And they were really into this. And the Gnostics were into the mystery schools, and they were into the free thinking. They were into understanding what it was to be a human being. And they came up with 3 aspects of themselves. And that is that we are bodies, we are soul, and we are spirit. Now the Gnostics used an image of a circle to describe it. And on the circumference of the circle, it represents what we call our physical body. And then the radius going from the outside to the center, that, as they looked at, was the psyche or the inner self. This is a deeper identity than just the body. It's a whole series of thoughts and feelings and emotion that goes on inside of us. And then this psyche or this radius goes to the center. And the center is called the pneuma or the nous, which translates as spirit, which translates as the consciousness within. So the pneuma or the nous, that is the subject of every experience, which is in each and every one of us. So we say we are spirit, which is the I of us or the Christ presence. And it's a modern translation. This is what we're waking up to. So our consciousness now is referring to this space that feels like you right now. It feels like that awareness region inside of you and me. It is like, when we take a moment to notice this. Notice that you're having a thought. and notice who's noticing that you're having the thought. Now, it just takes a moment to notice this, but just notice it. This is important it's something that you can settle back in. It's not something you have to get to. It's already there, and this is the consciousness. And this is what the story we're referring to, that we woke up to. We woke up to his real self, his consciousness. Consciousness is more than the thought. The consciousness knows these thoughts that comes and goes. So this is the deal. As a spiritual practice, let's try something. Let's notice our various thoughts and feelings and concepts and emotions and belief systems. Notice all of them. You don't have to put them away or try to get rid of them. Just notice them. And notice them that it's about ourselves. But let's take a step back. Let's take a step back and let's imagine that we're having all of these thoughts and feelings and whatnot, but since we're noticing them, they're not us. Instead, allow them to be these thoughts and whatnot without attachment. Now, this is challenging, I know, because we're hooked to our thoughts and we're hooked to our feelings and we're hooked to, that's our identity. But if we're noticing them, that means we're not them. It's just like this shirt. I want to notice that I have the shirt and I have it on, but it's not me. I could take off the shirt. I still could be me. So when we're coming to ourselves, we've got to move past these thoughts and feelings and emotions to the essence. And then this consciousness. This consciousness is the witness, is the one that's seeing, hearing, touching, and conceiving all of these thoughts. Consciousness itself is what I am pointing to. So the great revelation of the Gnostics in the mystery schools was this essential identity. And that's where I want to point to today. Know thyself. And in this book that I like, it's called Awake by Angelo DeLullo, who's a doctor. And he says, since we are not our body, not our thought, not our feeling, not our history, and not our concepts or beliefs about ourselves, then that means we are formless consciousness. Know ourselves as consciousness. And that there are, once we notice this, then there are forces, there are entities in what I would say the universe to come to our aid to support us in this process. Knowing thyself brings the allurement of knowing itself. This is a primal universal connection that we have. It's an ever-present, loving present that has been part of our essence from the very beginning. Since we were born, this presence has been here and is with us now. And what the thing of it is, what we're seeking to be in relationship with this consciousness is also seeking us. It's a dynamic relationship. So our affirmation is this: embraced by the divine, I am found and met at depth. Oh, there's allurement here that once we turn towards it, knowing ourselves, it starts to embrace us because we are one in the same. Who are you? Well, you are not what people say about you. Nope. You are not what they think about you. Nope. And you are not what you think about you. Nope. None of that. You are one with the one as the one. And with that, you and I are blessed. The thing of it is we got to wake up to that. So what I want us to do is let our belief systems about who we are, what we're about, what we've been, they're still there. But just know that we're not going to be hooked by this. We're going to move beyond these limitations of our identity, and so that we can experience life as it truly is. So let's be like the prodigal son. Let's wake up to our true selves and become what I would call a 21st century mystic, 21st century light worker who engages in a spiritual practice designed to shift our inner awareness, our inner paradigms, so that we can see clearly how to love the world into its next spiritual evolution. In order for to do that, we just have to wake up to ourselves, wake up to the potency of who we are. Know thyself. We are the light. We are pure potential of an unspeakable joy that's ready to manifest. We just got to get in touch with the consciousness that we are. God bless you. Have an opportunity each moment to recognize who you are, your consciousness. God bless you.